Hello everyone, I'm Ricardo of Work to Live podcast version. So this time, the title says maybe that I'm going to write the title, and the title is going to be like you can't see the face of the author in English language, but you can see the face of the author in in German language, or maybe I'm not thinking of changing the language, but I may change the title. I may change the latter part of the title from you can see the face of the author in German, or maybe I change the language from German to Japanese, or German to Chinese for example, or German to Romance language for example. I'm imagining that I'm imagining changing the latter part of the title this time, or this episode. So what I'd like to tell you, or what I'd like you to know is that what you see is a part of the world, and you know what you see is a part of the world, and of course you can't what you understand might be slightly different, slightly different from what you, from the fact, or from the truth. So I'm sorry, I couldn't explain. I couldn't explain well, but this time I'd like you to this time I would like you to make your imagination work harder. This time I'm sorry, but I'd like you to make your own imagination work harder. So what I'd like you to do is to imagine that if you have so some of you may know that I write porn content. So, and recently I create many contents, including adult content. So, and I often write articles in mediums. So I would like it, I hope if you have read my articles of medium. So this time I'm thinking of writing the link of my medium account. So anyway, so accessing to the medium account, or accessing to the compositions I have written. So if you read my articles, you know what you think is that the answer must be white people, or the answer must be some maybe if you're a white person, if you're white people, what you imagine is that the answer written in the answer, right? Or I mean, if you're white people, or if you're a white person, and if you read what I wrote in English language, so what you imagine is that maybe what you are going to imagine is that the answer is the white person or white people, or what you imagine might be the answer is of course maybe you can understand that the answer must be a non-native speaker of English language, but you may understand if you're a white person, or if you're white people, you may imagine that the answer is a white person or Caucasian person, which I think is the understanding you would have if you read my my compositions, or that is the understanding you will have if you read my compositions. So what I'd like you to know is that in my case, my mother tongue is Japanese. So my mother tongue is Japanese, yeah, which means if I read if I read compositions, or if I read documents written in Japanese language, so the authors must be Japanese people, aren't they? Which means I live near Tokyo, or I live in Tokyo. I won't tell you where I live, but I live I live someplace near Tokyo, or in Tokyo. Anyway, so in in the case of this country, smart people, smart enough to write books, for example, such authors live near Tokyo in most cases, because smart people come to Tokyo. So, or smart people go to Tokyo, which is a recent trend of this country. So maybe that is the trend of this country. But in the case of Western countries, not Western countries, in the case of English-speaking nations, things may be different. I think because of course, people go to urbanized areas, so maybe not maybe, the fact is that London, New York, and Los Angeles are dense or the most dense or most populous most popular cities aren't they? You know, London is crowded, and London is the most popular city in Great Britain, and in the case of the United States of America, New York and Los Angeles are the most popular cities or the most dense cities in the United States of America. So, like which people go to urbanized areas to get jobs or to get education, to get high level educations, like which also people go to urbanized areas, but in most cases, for example, in most cases, people speaking English are dispersed, aren't they? So if you if you use internet and if you read some compositions written in English language, the answer, the fact is that the answer must be of course the answer can be a white person or white people, and in the case of another article, or in the case of another composition, the answer might be for example Indian person, and in the case in a case of composition, in a case of reading another composition, the answer might be an Asian person just like me. It means what I'd like you to know is that you know you can't understand who the answer is only by using English language, which means this is a kind of a disadvantageous point. I think this is a kind of disadvantageous point because you can't identify who the answer is. Of course, this is the case to Japanese language because if only by reading composition, only by reading compositions, or only by reading the articles of internet news, it's not possible to identify the author or the writer of those articles. And of course, the name of the authors or the name of the writers are written in the articles itself. For example, some articles have the names of the authors, or and the articles have, in some cases, the articles have the names of the writers or the creators of those articles themselves. But I'm a Japanese person, so which means I can understand how Japanese people think, and think and act, or think and behave. So, and I can understand the social behavior. I don't know whether you can understand it or not, but I can understand how Japanese society is like for, and in this present time and in the past time, for example. So I can imagine and I can sense how Japanese people think, act, and behave. But in the case of the native speakers of English language, I think it's difficult for you to imagine how other native speakers of English language think and behave and act, because if you live in, for example, if you live in London, or if you live in somewhere in Great Britain, you can understand the behaviors and those sides of local people. That I think is natural because you are familiar with that area, and you are familiar with the people around you. But if you live in somewhere in Great Britain, I think it might be slightly difficult to imagine the behavior, or I think it's slightly difficult to understand what I think it's slightly difficult to sense the behaviors or the actions and those sides of people in United States of America. Or more difficult cases is that, so for example, what should I imagine? So uh, if you're a British person, so I don't think it's easy to imagine how people in Singapore think, which means people in Singapore are good at English language. Also, they have accents, but it might be generally speaking, Singaporeans are really good at, and Singaporeans can use use English language their own just like their own native languages. So so you can communicate verbally between you can communicate verbally with Singaporean people, but it's maybe constantly understanding by your own senses. I don't think it's easy because you're if you live in some if you live in some rural area in Great Britain, for example, you might be a white person. I think so because if you live in London, you might be an immigrant. So you might have for example so Middle Eastern ancestry, or you might be an Asian, just like I am. So you know if you're a white person, you may find the communication between yourself and Asian people difficult. But what I'd like to what I'd like you to know is that like which only by using English it's difficult to identify who the answers are. So if I like so as you hear, I'm a non-native speaker of English language. So if I introduce myself like hello, my name is Felix Dzierżynski, for example, my name is not Felix Dzierżynski. So if you'd like to know who Felix Dzierżynski is, please check out on the internet. So if I introduce my if I if I say like that, if I say my name is Felix Dzierżynski, so you may think that you may think I'm a, for example, Polish person, and you may think I'm a Russian person. So like which if you think I'm a non-native speaker of English language, but like which I can tell a lie. So I'm a Japanese, but I can tell a lie. So there's no Japanese people maybe there's no Japanese people whose name is Felix Dzierżynski. So like which what you see is part of the whole or part of the entire stuff. So by only by even by only listening to my pronunciation, I don't think you can identify who I am or what kind of person I am. So only frequent listeners can identify or understand that I'm an Asian person, which is why my English is really bad, or I'm really bad at English language. So like which if you are a native speaker of English language, what you see is a part of the world, and you can't understand. The fact is that you cannot understand the races of the writers or the authors or the speakers. So if you are, like which, if you think you're watching the entire stuff, even through by read even even by reading compositions or even by listening to the stories of people, I don't think that is a truth, or I don't think that is a fact, because what you if you think you are familiar with everything, or you know everything around the world, I don't think that is true. So which is what I'd like you to understand. What you see is what you see is only parts of the whole, or the parts of the entire stuff, which is what I'd like you to understand. Which is why I wrote which is why I wrote the title, which is why I decided that title. So you can see, the meaning of the title is that you can see the faces of the authors in English, which means if you read my compositions, I don't think you can understand that I'm an Asian person, and because if you can understand I'm an Asian person because I'm speaking English now. I'm speaking bad English now, so maybe you can understand I'm a non-native speaker of English language. But taking a look at another article written by another people, I don't think you can understand that whether the author is Asian or whether the author is white person without reading the name of the author. So, like which, what you see is a part of the world, or the only a, what you see is only a part of the entire stuff, which is what I'd like you to understand. But in the case of Japanese language and German language, of course, I only the only stuff I can see is only a part of the entire stuff. But I can at least I can understand the feelings of the answers by my own senses, for example. But the level of understanding is higher when using Japanese language or when using German language in the case of German people. And in the case of, for example, people using Romance language as their own native languages, maybe they can understand each other by using their own language or by senses. For example, Romance people can understand the behaviors. Romance people can understand the behaviors of Romance people, like which like which people who are non-native speakers of English language can understand each other by senses. But in the case of people who are native speakers of English language, that is difficult. Understanding by sense is difficult because people understand English. People understand English all over the world, which is why communicating just written communicating when it comes to the communication by using only written word is really tough because you can't understand each other by senses, which is what I'd like you to understand. That's it. Thank you very much for your listening. See you.